All right, everybody, welcome to Sunday Bible Study. Continuing on in Daniel 6. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, of course. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the decree. The king's decree, has not thou signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, except for you, O king, shouldn't that person then be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said before the king that Daniel, which is of the children of captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king. In other words, he's not doing this, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. In other words, he prays to a different God 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. So he wants Daniel to not receive any harm, and he feels really bad about what he had signed. Feels a little tricked, probably. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, now, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king establishes may be changed. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, thy God whom you servest continually, he will deliver thee. Very interesting. All right, let's move on to John 22 through 32. Let's make sure they're all here in the New Living. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. Anything that doesn't look right, we'll go read in the King James. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, who announced that anyone saying that Jesus was Messiah would be expelled from the synagogue. That's why they said, he is old. Enough, ask him. This is, the parents of the child who received his sight. So for the second time, they called in the man who had been blind and told him, God should get the glory for this, because we know this man Jesus is a sinner. I don't know whether he's a sinner, the man replied, but I know this, I was blind. Excuse me. And now I see. But what did he do? They asked. How did he heal you? Look, the man exclaimed. I told you once, didn't you listen? Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? Then they cursed him and said, you are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know God spoke to Moses. We don't even know where this man comes from. Well, that's very strange, the man replied. He healed my eyes, and yet you don't know where he comes from. We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but he is ready to hear those that worship him and do his will. Ever since the world began, no one has been able to open the eyes of someone born blind. That's very interesting. I want to read those last two in the King James. Maybe the last three. The man answered and said unto them, why, herein is a marvelous thing, that ye know not from whence he is, and yet he hath opened mine eyes. Now we know that God heareth not sinners, but that if any man be a worshiper of God and doeth his will, him he heareth. That is an amazing Bible verse right there. That's why I want to go back and read it, the King James. That tells you that anybody that prays before the Lord that's not a sheep, of course he doesn't hear it, which all goes back to, I never knew you. So, and of course, when you do pray to God, he's not changing anything, because he's already declared the end from the beginning. That's Isaiah 46:10. But what he did is he brought you to him in humility. Remember, Jesus said, I know the things you need of before you ask. Sorry. God knows the things you need of before you ask. Yeah, that's in Matthew 6:8. Okay. Sorry about that. I really wanted to get the be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth the things that you need of before you ask. And I think that's the same passage where he taught man how to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, our Father which art in heaven. And it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So when Jesus prayed concerning his future death on the cross, when he was in agony praying, he ended with, not my will, Father, your will be done. So you're always bowing to the will of God when you pray to be able to handle his will and ask him of the things that you need in a godly way, but they need to be godly things. And it is God that would have brought you before him to do such things. And not every prayer is answered because it depends on what he's already declared. But hopefully most times he puts it in your heart. You know, that's a long story. It's very, just pray on it and try to figure it out on your own. See what comes to you through the Holy Spirit. Now we know that God heareth not sinners, but if any man be a worshiper of God, in other words, a sheep, and doeth his will, him he heareth. Since the world began, was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind? Ever since the world began, no one has been able to open the eyes of someone. Okay. All right, very good. Hope that helps. Love y'all very much. Ask questions anytime.